Okay, so let's start revising what we have done so far. So the plan is I will go through the note very briefly, looking at what we have done so far. So in grade 11, we started with looking at the programming part, and in the exam point of view, normally now we are getting more questions, and this time also they might focus on grade 10, but then I hope they will work on programming as well. Now, first few things we have discussed in the beginning. What are the things we need to start, solving problems using computers? Now, one of the things I said, this process is now you should familiar. We start with problem analysis, isn't it? Now, so when it comes to problem analysis, we should identify what are the inputs, what are the outputs, and then the process, right? So we need to identify those, right? Okay, let's take an example. Let's say we want to add two numbers. Vishmi, can you perform the analysis part? Yes, Vishmi. Let's say we are going to add two numbers. So how do you analyze the problem? Okay, what is the input? What are the inputs? Given two numbers. Yes, we know that when it comes to input, it's the two numbers, isn't it? When you want to add two numbers. The output, the addition of the two numbers. The process, okay, we add number 1 and number 2 together. Then you build the algorithm. Now that part we already done. We use either flowcharts or pseudocodes. Once we have the pseudocode, we convert the algorithm to program, right? Then we find any errors, right? We find any errors. In this particular case, if you have errors in the program, we can make sure that errors are removed. Now, how do you identify errors? Now, for this, we can make use of already known values. Now, for example, if you want to add two numbers, then we can put known numbers and then we can add them together. Okay. And finally, once it is finished, we will run the program. Okay. So now let's look at what we have. I told you about the adding two numbers. And then we will identify the input, process, and output. Then we define the algorithm. So we have 4 steps. Input, first number, input second number, and then we calculate the total. and then we print the total, right? So the same way, if you are asked to find the area of a rectangle, yes, Lasindu. Now let's say you have given identifying area of a rectangle. What is the input, what is the output, and what is the process? Lasindu?
length එකයි width එකයි input කරලා
Yes, exactly. So we have length and width as the input. Process is you multiply the two to get the area, and output will be the area, isn't it? Yes. So now the difficult part comes in when you're building the algorithm. So the most important part in programming is to come up with the algorithm, and usually it's the most difficult part. So people use different techniques to develop algorithm, and your case we started with the flowcharts. So we have actually done multiple flowcharts, and then so far you have been given a flowchart. You should understand what the flowchart is, and you should be able to write the pseudo code for a flowchart. එතකොට flowchart එකක් පුතේ දුන්නාම ඕගොල්ලෝ pseudo code එක ලියන්න දැනගන්න ඕන. pseudo code එක දුන්නාම flowchart එක අඳින්න දැනගන්න ඕනේ. හරි? ඔය දෙකම exam එකේදී අහලා තියෙනවා. So you should know both. Right. Now when it comes to algorithms, there are a couple of control structures. Nilana, what are the control structures we have discussed? Vishmi? Lasindu? The three control structures are sequence, selection, and repetition. Now, if you look at this flow chart, what you see here is an example for sequence. Why we call it sequence? Yes, because it goes from top to bottom, executing all the steps. You start, you get the first number, second number, added it, and then you get the total. Okay. So sequence. Then we look at selection. When you talk about selection, there are two ways. One is there's a condition. Depending on the condition's output, we'll take different paths, right? Right now we will say if it is yes, then you have one option. If it is no, you have another option. Okay. So here is in the flow chart. When you take marks, if the marks is greater than 50, you check this. That's a condition. And usually remember, condition is the true false or yes no question, right? So then you take different paths. Okay, if the marks is 50, what is the output, Nilana? Let's say the entered marks is 50. What is the output? I would like to hear your voices. Yes, Nilana?
Pass.
it should be pass, right? So we are checking whether marks is greater than or equal. So when say equal, then it's the pass, right? Okay, this is an interesting one. Now displaying whether even and odd. Now we know from theory, to find whether the number is even or odd, what we do, we divide the number by 2 and then we check the remainder. So the first step is you get the number and then you find the remainder, and then you are checking whether the remainder is 0. If it is 0, then we know it's even, otherwise it's odd. So I hope that these things are not that difficult for you. Okay, here is an interesting one. So far in the exam, actually, they have not given to draw flowchart as such, except they will give you pseudocode and then you ask to draw flowchart, right? Now here we have 3 states for a given temperature value. We know that in water, we have 3 states. Now when you want to draw 3 options, yes, you cannot handle all the 3 options at one time. So you have to check one first, and then you check 2 options, and then the other one you have to have another condition. So if you have three options, then you have to have 2 conditions, isn't it? So here we will check temperature, and then we'll ask whether the temperature less than 0. You can actually do it in different ways, but in this particular case, if it is less than 0, then it will be ice. If it is less than or equal to 100, then it's water, because we know that it's not less than 100, or else it's tea. Okay, Lasindu, if I put temperature 0, what is the output? Let's say my input is 0, temperature is 0. So what is the output? Lasindu.
I
But පැහැදිලි නෑ පුතා ඒ පාරක් කිය.
print ice.
Okay, so it will be ice when you put 0. Vishmi, what do you think? Temperature is 0. What is the output?
Print ice.
Nilana, temperature is 0. What is the output?
Print water.
It should be water. Why? You are checking whether 0 is less than 0. 0. Is it less than 0? Lasin? When you check 0 with 0, 0, is it less than 0? No, right? Then what will happen? You go to the next condition. Now you are checking whether it's less than or equal to 100. Yes, then it will be water. Okay. Now let's say the temperature is 100. Lasindu, what is the output? That's okay, you can make mistakes, no problem. Temperature is 100. What is the output?
Water.
Ishmi?
Water.
It's water, isn't it? Good. So you have to be very careful, right? So things like whether 0 is less than 0, this is actually, asked multiple times in the exams, right? Now let's say here we have a couple of options. How many conditions we have to have for the flowchart? Nilana? Sorry. Yes, Lasindu, we have 5 options A, B, C, S, W. So how many conditions we have to use? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nilana? Remember I told you the previous one. We have 3 conditions. Sorry, 3 options. How many conditions? It's 2, right? Because for a given condition, you check 2 options at a time. So we have 3. We have 3 outputs here, ice, water, and steam. So you need 2 conditions. So in that particular case, if you have given this 5, then remember you need to have 4 conditions like this. You have to have 4 conditions like this. So the input is marks, output is A, B, C, S, O, W. So depend on marks, you are going to select this. We have already discussed this. So let's say marks is 85. What is the output, Nilana? Marks is 85.
A.
It should be A. The marks is 75. What is the output, Rashmika? Rashmika? Plus Hindu? Marks is 75. Yes, wish me.
Display.
So it should be A, right? Display means it should be A. Good. So marks is 35. Rashmika, what is the output? Helena? Marks is 35. What is the output?
W.
It should be W, right? So you should be able to, give the output. Then the third control structure, we said repetition. This is also known as iteration. So given a flowchart, how do you identify whether it's a selection or repetition? In selection, the arrows goes down, right? If I go back for the selection, the arrows goes down. This you need to remember, it goes down like this. But repetition, you see that one of the arrows will go up, which means the condition will repeat multiple times. So this will go up. This is how do you recognize whether it's a repetition or iteration. So in the exams, these questions also come, right? Given a flow chart, you should be able to identify whether it's a selection or repetition. Okay, So in this particular case, the arrow goes up, which means a repetition. We check the condition. If it is true, you perform the task. Again, you check the condition, right? This is how you will go, right? The next one is flowchart to print numbers from 1 to 10. I think we have done multiple times. You should know how this will work. So there are three important parts in repetition. Yes. Lasindu, what is the three important parts? Nilena? Vishmi? Okay, three important parts are the starting value, increment or decrement, and then the condition. Now here we want to print numbers from 1 to 10. You could have done print 1, print 2, and so on. But then you are going to use print statement multiple times. Because of that, we start with a variable. We say print number. And then we initialize it, say number is 1. So this will print 1. And after printing the number, we increase the current number by 1. So that's what it says here. So number equals number plus 1. So whenever it will print 1, right, then it will add 1 to it. Okay. So this goes on. Now we want to print only numbers from 1 to 10. So we limit the numbers by using the condition here. Okay. So we are checking whether number is less than or equal to 10. Let's say I want to print numbers from 1 to 100. Lasindu, can you tell me what changes I should do in this flowchart?
Change the number 100 down.
Good. So we changed the number 10 to 100. So it will print numbers from 1 to 100. Good. Nilena, I want to print odd numbers between 1 to 10. What changes I should do? But odd numbers විතර print කරගන්න ඕනේ කීනෙන් 10 වෙනකන්. කොතනද මම change කරන්න ඕනේ? Yes. Vishmi, I want to print odd numbers. What changes I should do?
Number plus 1 එකට number plus 2 දාන්න.
Exactly. So we will take number plus 1. We will change it to number plus 2. Good. So likewise, if you want to print even numbers, then you start from number equals 2. So again, in the exam, you'll be given a flowchart like this and asked to change, right? So you should be able to, understand and then provide the answer, right? Okay. And then the next one, right? Oh, given a flow chart, you should be able to identify, we will draw a table like this. Remember the table? Yes. Now this table is very important. whenever you work with the problem, especially with the repetition loops, to identify what will happen. Now in this one, we are calculating the total of numbers from 1 to 10, right? So we put a table. So using this table, we can say how many times this will repeats, what is the output, ending values. So this is very, very important when it comes to, flow charts. Right. Okay, the next thing we discuss is the pseudo code. The only difference is we put, instead of graphical elements, we have some simple English, and we use different terms like begin, end to represent the start and end, and then input, and then we will have, a display for the output and calculate for the processors. Right. Okay. So when you have given us condition, so the condition start with if, then we put the condition, we have then whenever the condition is true, we have task 1, and then else we have task 2, and then the end if. Right. So again, you should understand, how it works. Right. So this is again the similar one for nested selections, we call it. Then for the repetitions, there are many things, but when you're given this, you should know, how to convert. So if it is a repetition, usually we start with while. If it is true, the condition is true, then you are going to repeat. Then we have while, right? While and the condition, right? For example, printing numbers from 1 to 10, we can put up like this. We have number 1, while number is less than or equal to 10, display number, and then you calculate number equals number plus 1. Right. I'm not going to go into details, but I think we have done many times to understand this one. Right. Now, like while we have 4 statement, for loop. In for loops, how it works, all the 3 important stages of while we put up here. Now, for example, when we say for n 1 to 10, so this is the start, this is the end, that means the limit, and then start and increment, if you do not provide it, usually it will increase by 1. So this will print 1 to 10. Okay, then as I told you earlier, you should know how to convert pseudo codes to flowchart, right? Again, I'm not going to do this, but given a pseudo code, you should be able to, convert into a, flowchart, right? Right, Pascal, I have not seen the Pascal is given in the exams as such, except, few codes. But recent times, they'll be giving some, small Pascal segments, code segments, you should be able to understand. ළඟදී පොතේ තිබ්බ papers වලදී Pascal උත් පොඩ පොඩ අහලා තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා අපිට ඒක ටිකක් බලා ගන්න වෙනවා. පළවෙනි එක අපි කතා කරා පුතේ Pascal වලදී විචල්‍යයක් ගත්තාම when you take a variable, there are some rules to follow. You have to start with the English letter, then you can have numbers and underscores. And then there are some words are reserved only for Pascal. You cannot use them as identifier for variable names. Right. Then you have to define data types. There are 5 data types we have discussed: integer, real, boolean, character, and string. Again, you need to remember this. So whenever you have to define a variable, we say variable name, colon, and a data type. So some examples: to define an integer named as a, we can say var a integer. So likewise, if you want to volume as a object, so in this particular case you make it as a real number, because volume is consists of decimal number. Similar way we can define constants. The only difference is you assign some value here. Constant pi, we can assign the value, right? The general structure of the Pascal program is you start with program, and then you have to have a name for the program, and you have to define whether there are inputs and outputs. Then you have the variable declaration, and then you have the code. Now, one thing you need to remember when you say input first number, in Pascal, we have to have two lines. First of all, you display the message, and then you will, get the first number. So this will be displayed to the user. Whatever user enters will be saved in first number. Okay. Then we discuss how to convert them into Pascal. Pascal is a question. Pascal, is it a interpreted language or compiled language? Nilana? So what we said, compilers, it will take the high level language code, convert the whole code once to machine language. Interpreted languages, you take couple of lines and convert it to machine language. So the Pascal is, remember, this is very important, it's a compiled language also. So this is compilation, free Pascal, that's what we have used. So this command convert into a binary form. Okay. So these things were not that difficult, but then operators. Yes, we will have multiple operators were used. We have used multiple operators. So you should know the symbols as well: addition, subtract, multiplication, division, and div is stand for integer division, mod d is modulus, right? So for example, here this is 12 divided by 3, that is 4. 8 div 3 is 2 because it 2 point something. 8 mod 2 is the remainder. So that will be 0. Okay, so now then the comparison operators, you can check whether greater than, equal, less than, equal, not equal. So the output will be Boolean value, right? So the final results should be a Boolean value, true, false. Okay. Then we have logical operators. Then you can combine using AND, or, and NOT. You can combine multiple times, right? So that's what we have been discussing so far, right? Okay. Another thing is you need to remember the precedence. There's an order always, right? There'll be order. Always there will be order. So we should know in what order we have to use. Okay. Right. We have actually done multiple things. Okay, case statement. I have seen very few questions came in the exam, the case. So the idea is you get the marks, for example, here, there'll be a range of values. If they match with the range, then output the value. Now, for example, you get the marks here. If the marks is between 75 to 100, then when we say grade A, right? Otherwise grade B, C, S, and W. This is depend on the values. Okay, right. Well, let's look at the case statements. So another example, we get the number of the month as a month, and then you display the name of the month. So you are checking whether the number, if it is 1, then you put January. 12, it will output December, right? So I hope that is not that difficult for you, is it? Right. Okay, so then for do structure in Pascal, again like in previous, we have a counter variable, start and ending value. Now, for example, to print numbers from 1 to 10, you need 2 lines. For I 1 to 10, 2, then you say right len I will print out, right? So likewise, if you want to print numbers from 10 to 1, that means you subtract number by 1 every time. You can say for I 10 down to 1, 2, then you have a right len. Okay. Right. Then while do structure, that is we have already done this. Okay, I will look at the repeat until. Now repeat until is slightly different, right? Not like while loop. While loop, if condition is true, you are going to repeat. But repeat until is other way around, right? So in repeat until, if the condition false, then only you are going to repeat it. So this is different. Okay, this is different from what we have done so far. So remember that this is again very, very important. Right. Let's have a quick quiz, right? To just check what we have done so far. After quiz, I am going to explain this one in more detail, right? So let me play. Can you go to kahoot.it like we did earlier? Just go to kahoot.it. A quick one. Pin is given. Only 5 questions. We are waiting for Lasindu. Okay, let's start the first question. Yes. What control structures are available in the flow chart? It's the water one. If you remember that we have only selections. So selection inside selection is the correct answer. You have to be quick. The session will be over within 10-20 seconds time. So you need to hurry up. Be 32, isn't it? Previous one, if you put 0, it will be 32, right? Okay, so let's look at the next one then. So no output. I will come to the answer later on. Okay, next one. Last question. Okay. ඔක්කොගෙම වැරදිනේ. Right. Let's look at. Right. So let's look at the answers. So let me share the screen. We had 5 questions. The first one, make අමාරු නැහැ කියලා මම හිතන පුතේ මේක පේන්නේ නැහැ. So the answer should be selection inside selection. So that is a water problem that we have discussed. And then the next one is, let me share. Yes, it's there. So when you put 0 here, C0, then this becomes 0. Then 0 divide 5 again 0. So when you put 0 plus 32, this should be 32. So the answer should be this one. The next one, pass fail, 50 equal, then it should say pass. Okay. The loop, okay. Now you start with 10. You are checking whether 10 is greater than 10. Yes. The question is, what is the output? There's no output. Why? The output is in the high now. The high වැඩි කියලා හමුන්නේ කෙල්ලීම එළියට එනවා. output එකක් එනවා. There's no output. Last one. The for loop goes from 1 to 10 and it says display inside double quotes. I think I told you in the beginning, when you put up a double quotes, it will print as it is, no change. So the output is just n 10 times. None of these output. The correct answer is this will display n, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just print n for 10 times. Okay. Anyway, I hope whatever we have discussed will be helpful for you. Right. So let's look at the repetition part. Let me share the screen and we'll do together, right? So in repetition, right? In repetition, we have these these items. So let's look at how we can actually type, right? So this is flowchart drawing. Let me say start. You say start. Then we know that I is equal to 1. We know I should be equal to 1. So that's a start. We have a repeat now. So that means there's no condition here. Then you have a output. So let's say print I or display I. And then you know that once you display, you increase I by 1. And then the condition is, yes, the condition is I'm going to check whether I is greater than 10. So this is the condition, right? This is the condition we are going to have. Finally, we will have end, right? So one thing to note is here what we do. So start symbol you already know. So this is the start. And then you have I equals 1 rectangle shape. So this is the first step. Then you display it. This is the next step. Then you increase I by 1. Yes. And here is the condition. Okay, interestingly, the loop repeats. Yes, this loop repeats whenever condition is no, right? So make a note of this in repeat until. If it is yes, let's say it says yes, then it will go to end. Yes, this is the repeat until structure. So the difference between while and repeat, while loops usually repeats when the condition is true, whereas repeat, it will repeat when the condition is false. Make a note of this again, very, very important. Okay. පුතාලට වෙලා ඕනද මේක ලියා ගන්න නැත්නම් පුතාලට මතකද මේක ලසිඳු all right, better you write down because we never know like what will come to the exam, so better take down this repeat until එකේදී මතක තියාගන්න ඕන දේ තමයි while loop එකේදී මේක condition එක හරි ගියොත් තමයි repeat වෙන්නේ repeat එකේදී වැරදුනොත්, right? The conditions are always opposite to what is in while loop. හැම වෙලේ පොතේ condition එක while loop එකේ අනිත් පැත්ත. දැන් කියනනම් 10ට print වෙද්දී අපි while loop එකේදී check කරේ I 10ට කුඩා හෝ සමානද කියලා. ඒකේ විරුද්ධ පදේ විරුද්ධ අගය වෙන්නේ 10ට වඩා වැඩිද කියන එක. හොඳට හිතලා බලන්න. ඒක තමයි මේකේ condition එක වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. Once you finish taking down, please let me know to proceed. Right. Let's move to the next one. May I erase this? You need more time? ලසින්දු නිලන රශ්මික හරිද පුතේ?
හරි සර්.
Right. So I'm going to clean this. Right. You don't have to try the other one, but at least you should remember this. Right. Then we discuss the arrays. Again, very important one. What you need to remember about the arrays is array means under a single name, you can store multiple things. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි එක variable නමකින් අපිට විචල්්‍ය අගයන් ගණනාවක් තැන්පත් කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ arrays වලදී. So how we define arrays is we say marks, var marks, colon, then you say array, and then you can have a set of indexes. Indexes කියලා කියන්නේ දැන් මේකදී කියන 0.9 දක්වා. එතකොට කොටස් 10ක් 0.9 දක්වා 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 මේ විදිහට තමයි හදන්නේ. එතකොට marks කියන එක අපිට අගයන් 10ක් ස්ටෝර් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. Individual marks ඕන නම් පුතාලට access කරන්න පුළුවන්. You can access using marks and square brackets you can put 0 1 and up to 9 and so on, right? So this could be done, right? So then here you can store 10 numbers. It's very, very important. Otherwise you have to create 10 variable names like A, B, C, D and so on, which is very limited. Okay. All right. Let's move to the next one then. The same way you can change index starting value and ending value. So if you want to have index from 1 to 10, then it will again 10 numbers, but its starting values are different. Index numbers are different. Starting with 1 goes up to 10, right? So this is how you may create arrays. So index represent how many values you can store in marks variable here. Right. Now assignment of the values. Now let's say we have marks array. Let me put it in the highlight form. So this is the array. And the array consists of different values. Let me highlight it. Let me put it background. Yes, I can put some background color. Right. So the background color yellow represents the values, what is stored there. And basically these are the indexes. That part we already know, right? No borders. And then let me put only the top one. And here is marks. Again, I'll remove everything. And then we put up this right border. Yes. So it should be, it looks like this now, right? Okay. So how do you like put into the code? You have to assign each and every. So marks 1 10, marks 2 20, and so on. So you have to repeat this 10 times. There's a pattern, you know, that the values are actually, 10 times the index. So instead of just typing all these marks individually, you can say marks I equal 10 into I, and then you put in the follow. So usually handling these values in a array is very easy with loops, right? It's very easy with loops. Okay. A few things we discussed. One thing is sub-programs. I do not think they didn't ask any questions on this one, but we can put into multiple programs. So the function or procedures are used for this, right? So for example, here we will have the variable declaration. That part we already know. Then the main program start with begin and end. and then we can have functions and procedures, right? And they can put into the main program. So when you build more complex programs, we can use procedures and functions. අපි ගොඩක් complex වැඩසටහන් පොතේ හදනකොට මේ procedures සහ functions පාවිච්චි කරනවා. හරි. අපි example එක කතා කරා මම හිතන්නේ briefly ඔයගොල්ලෝ දැනගත්තාම ඇති මේකෙදී. Right, then the evolution of programming languages. So in initial stage, we have machine language, zeros and ones. They are heavily depend on the machine architectures, and it was very difficult to understand by the humans. And you need good knowledge in hardware. It seems with assembly now, since machine learning is very difficult, it starts with 0 and 1. Assembly, you have shorter English terms, but again, you should have a sound, computer hardware knowledge. But that was a bit easier compared to machine languages, right? And what we have nowadays, we call high-level languages like Visual Basic, C, C++, Python, MATLAB, even the Pascal, we consider them high-level languages and quite easy for the programs, right? Okay. And then there are different types of programming languages. Again, we'll look at very briefly. Now, for example, the Pascal, what we have learned is Pascal is called procedural programming languages. Procedure means you have to write down all the steps if you use Pascal, right? Whereas declarative languages, you just say what you want. Quite different programming languages. Then we discuss object-oriented programming. So another way to write down the programs, you see everything as objects and their relationships. Right now, for example, we can represent teacher and student relationship like this. So what you see here is you have a teacher class. We have teacher class here. Right, in the teacher class, actually we have the teacher. The class is like a template, we normally say. It we call a template, right? And the relationship is teach. The relationship is we call teach. The teach means we can put up, the values like this, and there'll be a relationship we call teach. Right. And then we have teacher and student classes. Inside that, you can have variables and then also methods. You can have variables and then you will have methods. Right. Okay. So using these classes, then you can actually create actual object with some values. Then we discuss program, language translation. You can have assembler, compiler, and interpreter. Assembler is converting assembly language code into machine language. Compiler is you can convert all entire program into binary, and interpreter you take couple of lines at a time. So that's called interpreters. So the language like Pascal is a compiler, and language like Python, it's interpreted languages. Right, I think that's all we have with the programming part. Then we discuss system development life cycle, especially the importance of computer-based system together with the manual system. So when you say information system, you have multiple things. You have people, data, network, equipment, and technology. And then manual systems, accuracies are low, efficiency is low. You need a lot of space to store data. and data is not safe, and you can improve everything with computer-based information system. So the stages, there are 6 stages. You should remember the steps and the flow of the steps. Now here we have 6, starting from identification of requirements. When you build the information system, let's say you are going to build a computerized system for a library, you should know what features you need. Now, for example, we need to say or store the book details, then the student details, and then their students will take out books. So these are the requirements. Now this could be done in multiple ways, using observation, like you just look at it, interviewing, like you interview few person, questionnaires, if you want to gather information from large set of users, and then document and sample collections to produce reports and making prototypes. Right, and then you have to design the solutions. There are a few steps. You need to identify the architecture, user interfaces, main hardware component, dependencies, hardware and software. You have to decide what to use, and then design the infrastructure. Then you have a coding. You use suitable language to code. Then you have test and debugging. The errors are known as bugs, and then identifying and correcting is known as debugging. Then comes the testing: unit test, integrate test, system test, and acceptance test. Unit means each individual component you test separately. Integrated means these units are integrated, and then you check the integrity of the components. So this is called integrated testing. And then we have system testing. And finally, we have acceptance testing, right? Then when it comes to deployment, that means once you have finished the testing part, you are going to install the new system in the premises. Now that can be done in multiple ways. You can put direct installment. That means you completely abandon the old system, you start with the new system. If you're pretty sure the system is working, then no problem, you can go for direct deployment. But let's say you are not really sure about the new system, then you have to parallelly deploy these two systems. You have to maintain old system as well as new systems. After some time, if you are happy with the old system, then you can go with the new system. Then we have pilot deployment, which means you select particular area like Colombo, you put it there, and then you check this, and then you expand it to other areas. So this is called pilot development. And phase development, you can have multiple phases like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. That means stage-wise, you are going to change the old system into new system, right? So it's very important to understand different situation. You need different deployments. You should understand when you should use direct deployment and when you should use parallel deployment. And finally, maintenance. You know that things will change over the years. Earlier, we didn't have touch systems, touch devices. When it comes to touch devices, earlier, they have to change the program to support these touch devices, right? So that's we call maintenance of the system. Right, now, for this, we have multiple ways of developing. We call life cycles. The most common one we have discussed is waterfall model. The 6 stages, you complete one after the other. When you say one after the other, you completely finish the first phase, then you go to the next one. So because of that, this is known as waterfall model, right? So the same step that we have discussed earlier is there. Now, one of the problem here is when you start, this will take very long time to finish the system, and it's time consuming, right? Whereas nowadays, when we want to develop system, we use what we call the iterative incremental model. Iterative incremental model means you develop system in iteratively. That means it's portion one time. So you start with a couple of requirements, you design for those requirements and implement and test, right? So this is what we call the iterative incremental model, right? So it's easier. Okay, so that's the second one. Then we discuss internet and email. Internet, under the internet, what we discuss is what is internet. What internet means, interconnected network. That means with the technology, we can combine all the networks together into a one global network we call, and it will be the internet. Right now, internet is heavily used for information and for other services. So we discuss important uses of the internet, especially when it comes to education. We have online courses, you can do shopping, you can use emails and so on, right? So there are some important the terms. World Wide Web is the place where the information are kept. All the web pages are stored in World Wide Web. So that this is known as a service. And then the documents contains graphics, video, and sounds. It's not just text, it's more than text. So in Greek it says hyper. So hypertext means you have, you know, a lot of other things other than text. And hyperlink is place where you click to go to the next one, and it's easier for references in, you know, web pages. And the web page is a document in World Wide Web, consists of hypertext file. And website is, you know, you will have a related set of web pages. To view a page, you have to use application software called web browser, and there are many web browsers are available. You should know at least a couple of them for the exam. Now let's look at URL. Usually URL start with HTTP, we call protocol, and then you have www to indicate that this is in World Wide Web, and then you have a domain name. So you can see in different colors. So HTTP we call the protocol. So usually to send and receive HTML documents, we use hypertext transfer protocol, HTTP in short. And then we have World Wide Web, and then we have domain name. And then whatever the file comes after that, the dashes, slashes means it's a path, the folders. And then finally, this is the file that you are going to access, right? So it's called resource. When you look at the domain names, there are different domains are there. Now, for example, .lk we use for Sri Lankan websites. So likewise, we have .com for commercial, .edu for educational one, .net for networking, .gov for government, and .org for non-profit organizations such as Dalada Malika. So you should know, you know, to understand there are different domains. So you know that we have about more than 200 countries. For each country, you have a country code, right? Some important web addresses, and in the exams they have asked this, you know, Ministry of Education, NIE, National Institute of Education, Department of Examination and Education Publication Department. I have seen these websites in exam questions as well. Right. Then IP address, important one. Now you know that when it comes to identifying computers, you cannot use a URL like http ://www.diviner.com. It's not possible. Instead, we know that computer understands only binary, so you'd assign some number and this is known as IP address. So usually IP address consists of 4 numbers starting from 0 to 255, and then it's separated with the dot, right? So to print numbers from 0 to 255, you need 8 bits. 8 into 4, you need 32 bits for the IP address. This is asked in the examination. Right. I'm skipping some theoretical part. I think you can access those. Internet services, you should remember. World Wide Web, we have already discussed. File transfer protocol means if you want to transfer bigger files between computers, you have to use the protocol name file transfer protocol. The remote access, you can access computer from anywhere through the internet. There are some software specialized for those. Again, that also we have discussed. There's a file sharing, file streaming, search engines, right? Instant messaging and video conferencing, now quite popular in the internet. Then we discuss about the emails. The structure is always username and the domain name, right? And usually with the @ mark, it will separate these two. And one of the key things to identify particular message like this through this @ symbol, it's used for emails. So you can identify username and password, and if it is an email, using this @ symbol. Right now we have discussed a couple of things, how you may actually write emails, send emails, forward them. These things we have discussed. But one of the main things that we have discussed is use of CC and BCC. Remember, when you send an email to someone, if you use CC and BCC, everything is visible in 2 and CC, but not in BCC. BCC means blind carbon copy, meaning like nobody knows. So those in BCC, they know that this is sent to the persons in 2 and CC fields, but none of the persons in 2 and CC will knows who actually received this in BCC. Even the 2 persons in BCC, they don't know each other whether they have received this message or not. Right, so that's about the emails. Then we discussed the multimedia, especially we started with the images, and images we discussed were digital images. There are 2 types, pixel based we call raster images, or geometrical shape based we call vector images. There are 2 types, and our focus was on raster images. Software like GIMP edits pixel wise, images in pixels wise. Okay, first thing you know that the quality of the image is measured in called resolution. Resolution means number of pixels in an inch, we call PPI. When PPI is higher, you have more quality images. Now for our internet, we have about 72 PPI or 96 PPI, which is small web. When you want to print a image, then we normally use higher PPI value like 300 or 600. And when it comes to printing, this is known as DPI, dots per inch, because you print dots. So usually printing, you use higher DPI range like 300, 600 or 1200 is possible. Right. Okay, quick example. If you are given an image 1 inch and 1 inch height and inch width and 72 PPI, what is the total number of pixels in the image? Sorry. Yes, Lasidu? How do you find? 1 inch height and 1 inch width. and it says 72 ppi. Yes,
72 into 7.
exactly. So if it is 1 inch, 1 inch, we have a square shape, so this will be 1 inch, this will be also 1 inch, and this is 72, this is 72. So the number of pixels is, you have to multiply 72 by 72, right? So which is the answer, you can actually calculate it. So likewise, the second one, if you use 300 ppi, you have to have 300 into 300, right? So I hope those are not that difficult. Okay, then the color depth is number of colors you can represent an image. Again, if you use 1 bit, you know that you can represent 2 colors, 0, 1. 2 bits, it's be 4. With 8 bits, you can represent 256 colors, right? And usually in color images, you have 3 components, red, green, and blue. So which means 8 into 3, 24, 2 to the power 24, you can calculate and see how many values you can represent, right? Okay. Then the color modes, there are different ways actually colors are represented. Additive colors and subtractive colors. These are the different ways of, in LCD screen we use R. Okay, let's start. We were discussing the color models, how colors are represented, and there are many models. RGB is used in like screens, like monitors, and CMYK is used in printing. So RGB, there are 3 main colors, red, green, and blue. That stand for RGB. In CMYK, there are 4 main colors: cyan, that means light blue, magenta, yellow, and black. So those are the 4 colors we will have. So when you add 2 colors together, you will get what we call secondary colors, right? Now, for example, red and blue, if you have done arts, you know it's create magenta. Green and red, it'll be yellow, and green and blue, it'll be cyan. So likewise, cyan, magenta, you will get blue, cyan, yellow, we'll have green, magenta, and yellow, it's, red. This is we call subtractive, colors. This is called additive colors. And then we also discuss calculations, but I don't think you need this for the exam. So that I have done actually for your information. Right. Given image size of 100 by 200 pixels and 24-bit color, calculate the size of the image in bytes. So the number of pixels is 100 into 200 and 24 bits. That means these many bits are used. Then you can divide by 8 to get the bytes. Then we have graphical file formats. Different formats we discussed, JPG and JPG, and PNG and GIF. These are used in web graphics, internet. Most of the images are in these formats. But professional photos, it's called TIFF, right? So what you mean is different software we use. Right. And then the types of images, raster, vector differences. I already said raster is a set of pixels, vector is geometrical shapes. Storing is and storage is rectangle shapes, and then here we have geometrical information like radius and color. And usually rasters are used in photographs and vectors are used in drawing like logos. Size will be large, but vector size will be small, right? When you increase the sizes, no changes in vector images, the quality will be the same. But raster images quality decreases, so that's why sometimes you will see the patterns in the newspaper images, right? That's happened. And the software we use for the raster image is GIF and Photoshop, and what we have discussed is called GIMP. Whereas the vector, there are many other software available. Right. A few things you need to know about these different tools. Remember right now what we have discussed is the GIMP, but the exam paper, sometimes the names in the Photoshop also are there. So those I put in under the brackets. So selection tools, we have rectangle tool, ellipse tool, free tool, and fuzzy. Free means you can freely, select a shape, and fuzzy is you can make a selection based on color and also the tone. Then we have brush tools, transform tools, and the other tools. I think we have given you the handout. Please go through it very carefully, and you should, know these things. If any note is missing, let me know, like I can share with you. Right. Then we also discuss a little bit about the animations. Animation, nothing but sequence of images. We call these as frames. And important frames are known as keyframes. That means we know that in animation you can define start and stop, and then in intermediate one you can generate. So these start and stop, for example, known as keyframes. And the computer can generate what is in the middle, we call tween frames, right? We call tween frames. So the tween frame means it's computer generated. So everything put in a timeline. I think I told you in videos, usually you have about, at least 30 frames per second, which means if you take a 1 second of video, you have 30 images, right? Okay, and the formats are, different formats are used, Flash and Victorian Ghetto. That's the software we have discussed in the class. Then audio editing, which means you can change the record, trim, mix, join, change the pitch. And then again, you have different file formats are there. And I have put a list of software as well. And then video and video editing software there. We have not done any editing as such, but we discuss how software could be used to create a video. Right. Then we were discussing about the use of multimedia technology. World Wide Web we have discussed earlier as well. And we also discussed what is website. You have a related web pages, like in a hotel, you might have main page and details of rooms, activities, food, and so on. For each of these, you have web pages. Now, the language we have used is called HTML, Hypertext Markup Language. and then you can develop web pages using a simple text editor, or you can use authoring tools, right? So this we have done earlier, so make a note of this one. It's very important, and the names are there, right? Web authoring or advanced tools we can use. Now right now we have discussed how to use Notepad, that we have discussed, but there are software like Dreamweaver is there you to use without knowing HTML, right? HTML codes are important. So we also say tags. In tags, usual tag pairs. So the basic page, you have HTML. So this is the starting point. And there are two parts, head and body. Head, usually we put meta information such as title of the web page, and body, whatever is going to display in the browser. Now, for example, here title is appeared in the top title bar, and the hello world appear in the body, right? Okay, now then we also discuss web browsers. I think there's no point of discussing those, but the tags, some tags you have tag pairs, right? Open and close tags, and some individual tags. Now the first one is the headers. If you want to specify headers, there are 6 levels. H1 is the largest, remember. H6 the smallest, right? Very, very small. Make a note of this. Even it's smaller than the normal text. Then for paragraphs, we have PP. But the alignment you can change using the property we call align. Now, for example, we can say P and align like this one. Align, and then you can specify whether you need to align to left, right, center, and justify. This is possible. Then line breaks, especially if you just type your address, if you type it as it is in a web page, if you open in the browser, you will see it as a one single line, because we have to indicate whether there's a line break or not. So BR we have to use for that. Then centering, bold, italics, underline, superscript, subscript. So those will normally come into the exam. Usually so far what they have done is they have given you a output of a web page and ask the internal coding, but you have to prepare for that. Right, then the colors and sizes, you can use font size, font color. This is actually outdated information. Right now we are not going to do this in web development. We will use what we call CSS, cascading style sheets, which we have not discussed in the class. Then the image, one thing you should know is there are specific formats you can actually use for images, and you start with image. This is also a single tag, start with image, and the properties src stand for source. You put the image name. If the image is with the file itself in the same folder, you can just say the image name. Otherwise you have to indicate folder name. You can get even image in the internet. Just if you put the image URL, then you can include the image in your web page. Spacing is interesting in web pages. If you want to make a space between lines, you have to use BR, line breaks. But if you need a space between words, there's a special tag we use. We call and NPSP semicolon. So this is used if you want to add additional space between words. Otherwise, if you just put several spaces, it won't display in HTML page. Then you can use horizontal lines. HR stands for horizontal line or horizontal rule that actually divides a web page. Then we will have lists. There are 3 lists we have discussed: ordered list, unordered list, and definition list. Ordered list is the number or sequence if you want to represent. So OL, for example, and then you have each item you represent under LI. So LI is there. Then you can change the property. We call type A, then it becomes ABC. Type I, it becomes Roman numeral, simple I. This is Roman numeral 1, 2, 3. So that can be changed with the type attribute. Unordered list, same as earlier, but you start with UL and ends with UL. And then here the type indicates a symbol. So there are three possibilities: disc, circle, and square, right? When you put a square, you will get square shape. Circle, this is how it looks like, circle. And then the disc means this one, right? That's the default value. Then we have definition list like in a dictionary. So you have main term, TD, and that is the title. And then definition title, we call it. DD means definition data. So DT is coffee. So this is the term you are going to define it. And this is the data. It says black hot drink. So the way that it will display slightly different, you should know how exactly it will display. Now, how the pages are linked together is you have links to click it. Now, for that, we will use A to say anchor. And then we are here in the one HTML page. We want to go to HTML. So href, we say 2.html because we want to go to 2.html. And whatever the link display should be put it the name here, next page /a. Okay. Then the tables are not that difficult. You start with table, and then you have tr and tr for each row. So here we have 2 rows, we have 2 TRs. And each individual cells, you can have 2 types, a header table, header cells and data cells. So you can use TH and TD, right? Now, usually if you don't put the border, it will not add the line around the cells. If you need it, you have to put this value. You can put any value here, but border you have to specify whether it's 1 or 2 if you want to display the lines in the cell. Right, then row span and column span. In the row span, we have A here. So spanning 2 columns. So we say column span 2, right, for A inside TD. Whereas here it's row span. You are connecting 2 rows together, right? Again, we discussed these ideas in the. Okay. Then different software we have actually discussed. Who's using this information? Let me quickly go to the English version of this. Okay, next one, we have one more to go, but let's start with this one, information and technology and the society. So that's the last one. ICT used in entertainment. I guess you can have enough, information on ICT in entertainment. And then we discussed the problems, legal issues, data theft, unauthorized access, intellectual property rights, and frauds. Those are some legal issues. And physical and logical issues. Physical means, power goes off, and sometimes that may affect your electronic devices. So you better use a UPS. And then you can use CCTV for physical security, right? And then logical security, you can use username and passwords, software firewalls and backups. This is called logical security. Then there are many different malicious software, viruses, worms, Trojan horse, spyware, adware, bots, hijacker, and phishing. You should know the difference between each other. Now, for example, Trojan horses, I told you like it's a giant horse used in the Greek history. It's when you look at it, you think it's innocent, but it's not, right? So that's called Trojan horse. Likewise, phishing, they actually steal your bank information, right, by clicking the links. Right. Okay. Then there are virus guards are there again. Remember them. And then the health related issues. What will happen if you're not careful about your posts when you're using computer? So that's the one we have discussed. So different problems arises. You should know the name of the problem, right? So in the exams, usually you will be given, now for example, pain in muscles and bones, wrong posture, we call musculoskeletal problem. Repetitive stress injury, usually you are repeating the same thing, especially the pain coming from shoulder to fingers. Feel of numbness and the pain in fingers, we call carpal tunnel syndrome. And then if you just look at the computer screen for long hours, then you have eye problems. Yes. Okay, so I think with that one we finished the reviewing the grade 11. If you want me to review grade 10, let me know, but I thought of reviewing grade 10. And the next week I will combine all the examinations questions and discuss the main one. So I'll be sending the questions out as a MCQ paper during by, let's say, Wednesday, and then you are supposed to answer, and then we will have a discussion. And also I will indicate what questions to be be careful, or you should focus more in the exam. So there'll be a single structure. If you keep on working on the papers, that won't be that difficult, because you will have the same structure, and the format, I do not think it will change, but maybe there are a couple of questions will get more from grade 10, but the remaining, I do not think it will change the structure at all. Right, having said that, let's finish for today. We have exactly 3 weeks to go, right? And I hope everybody is working really hard, putting your soul and the efforts to score the highest possible achievement you could make for the O levels. I hope everybody try for 9 A's. Yes, you should aim for 9 A's. I think everybody is in the same caliber. The only thing, the difference is your motivation and the effect you put for the exam. So I hope everybody works really hard to get this through the O levels with a good result. I know that everybody gets through the exam, but with the best results, or with the maximum best effort possible for the O level. Remember, the result is always yours. You keep your results with you. Parents, teachers, they can only help you, but you have to work on the exam. So having said that, I wish you best luck for your exam. And then we'll meet in the next week. හොඳයි පුතේ, එහෙනම් අපි අදට නතර කරමු. ලබන සතියේ මම අර කලින් කිව්වා වගේ sample questions ටිකකොත් එක්ක අපි හම්බෙමු. Right. ප්‍රශ්න පත්‍ර ඕන වැඩ වැඩියෙන් කරන්න ඕන නම් කියන්න. මම ගාව papers තියෙනවා තාමත් එහපු නැති. But I think you have a lot of work. But if still you interested in working on, please let me know in the chat, individually or like in the comment, or using WhatsApp, whatever the medium. then I can provide you whatever the help you need. Okay පුතේ එහෙනම් අපි අද නතර කරනවා. අපි එහෙම ලබන සතිය හම්බෙමු.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.